Hello, my name is Tom. I'm with the Zeitgeist movement in Austria, and in this video I would like to respond to a recent video by James Corbett titled The Last Word on Utopia. And the reason I would like to respond to that video is because in it Mr. Corbett references and talks about the Zeitgeist movement and the resource-based economy ideas, and he paints them in a light that I do not agree with. And I would like to respond to his video in a sort of reverse order to the order of his arguments, because Mr. Corbett structures his video in such a way that for the first 8 minutes he talked about failed economic and political systems of the past, and only in the last part of his video, in the last 3 minutes or something, he brought up the Zeitgeist movement and the resource-based economy, and basically compared our ideas to those failed systems he had talked about before. So I will start with the end of his video, in which he made a sort of comedic remark.
Those who promise a world of plenty where we will receive everything for nothing will always be popular with the public looking for an easy solution to all their problems. And those who warn about the dangers of utopian thinking will never be popular. They will always be cast as obstacles in the path of the ideal society and dismissed as charlatans by the masses who are swept into revolutionary fervor, their judgment clouded by the comforting fog of utopian visions. No, it is never a popular thing to warn against utopia, but it is nonetheless necessary.
Right, so I think this is actually pretty funny, because Mr. Corbett seems to be saying that the ideas of the Zeitgeist movement, the ideas of a resource-based economy are so popular, and he's basically taking the unpopular position, the unpopular stance, and sort of telling the truth about this popular idea of a resource-based economy, which is completely reversed and totally far from the truth, because I wish the ideas of a resource-based economy were popular, but they are really not yet, unfortunately. We're working hard on making them more popular. So I don't exactly know what Mr. Corbett is trying to say here. He's trying to paint himself as the rebel, the unpopular one who's defending this unpopular position and making it seem as if the movement's ideas of a resource-based economy are so popular and everyone's following those ideas already, which is, well, like I said, totally far from the truth. But let's move on.
How appealing it is to be offered the promise of a perfect system, a way to organize our society that will allow us to live in peace and harmony forever. After all, if such a system were really possible, who wouldn't want to attain it? But that, then, is the danger of the utopian ideal. The fact that it is always just out of reach, always just one step further down the path of good intentions, means that those who are willing to use this utopian fantasy to lead society in a dictatorial direction can dangle it before the public like a carrot to lead them down the garden path. It is, in short, nothing but a tool to enslave the public in the name of creating the perfect society. Indeed, not just to enslave them, but to get them to work toward their own enslavement.
Yes, and obviously I agree with Mr. Corbett on this point in a general way. This has definitely happened in the past, and the danger of this happening again is still here. Yes, I agree. The thing is, what he described simply doesn't apply to the Zeitgeist movement at all. For two reasons. The idea that the Zeitgeist movement talks about, the resource-based economy, is specifically a leaderless, a rulerless system, a rulerless economy, and that in itself is a reason why it simply doesn't compare to what Mr. Corbett talked about. We are specifically advocating a change in that way. Today we have systems with rulers, with leaders, and we want to get away from that. So we're advocating the absolute opposite of what he's talking about, and somehow he thinks we're not. So that's the first reason why what he said doesn't apply to the Zeitgeist movement. The second reason is the movement itself is also not structured the way he's describing it. This movement is a grassroots movement of people who have heard about this idea of the resource-based economy, and this movement has shaped or formed around this idea. But there is no person or no group of people at the center. There is only an idea. Yes, there were movies made by individuals, movies that presented this idea to the millions of people who have seen those movies, but those people do not lead this movement in any way. I am very active in this movement. I have never been led or ruled or told by anyone what to do. Like I said, this movement consists completely of people who support this idea by themselves, who understood it, who researched it, and who are now trying to advocate these ideas to other people. So it's simply not the way Mr. Corbett is trying to paint it. There is no one dangling this carrot in front of our noses here to lead us into slavery or anything. It's not the case. So these are the two reasons why what he said simply doesn't apply to the Zeitgeist movement. And if he thinks it does after all, and we're just not seeing it, then I would ask him to tell us who these people are that are using the ideas of a resource-based economy to lead us into slavery, because I don't see them, no one in the movement seems to see them. And please, Mr. Corbett, tell us, who are those people?
Once again, we are being told that in this coming utopia, an army of benevolent machines will provide for all our needs. In fact, we are told this technological revolution will not only transform our society, but human nature itself. The machines will know what resources are needed, how to acquire them, and how to distribute them. The machines will be able to calculate our needs and provide for them better than we ever could. The machines will be programmed by scientists, and, we are led to believe, they will always know how many toothbrushes to make. In this utopia, the proponents of this movement tell us there will be no evil people, no elite class that tries to control others, no one at all who tries to control the system, because human nature itself will no longer allow for it.
Okay, there seem to be two basic things that Mr. Corbett has misunderstood here about what the Zeitgeist movement advocates about the resource-based economy. The first thing he seems to see in a very strange and, from my perspective, wrong way is how this resource-based economy is actually going to work in regards to machines, in regards to computers, and in regards to human beings. What he seems to be imagining that we are advocating, which we're obviously not, is a world completely run and ruled by machines, in which humans don't do anything anymore, and in which humans don't even have any idea what's going on anymore, and in which only the machines know what's going on and basically do their own thing and decide what's going to happen to and with the humans, and that couldn't be farther from the truth. So, just to clarify this with my own view, and I think with many people's view in the Zeitgeist movement, the resource-based economy is basically based on the world we have today. So it's not like we're gonna tear everything down and then rebuild some new futuristic robot and machine controlled world. No. Base it on the world of today, in which there are millions of production and transportation and refining and distribution facilities all over the world. Already today they are connected by a network of computers mostly. Each of those facilities has their own databases, most of them in digital form today. They used to be probably just lists, inventory lists, stuff like that, order lists, all kinds of lists and databases that simply each of those facilities run by themselves. So let's say a supermarket, they have their inventory list, they know how much they have of every product, of every item. They can see how much of every item is being sold every day, and from that they can calculate or simply determine when it's going to be time to order more of this or that product. Then they have the producers of those products who also have their lists. They get their orders. They know, okay, we need to have so many of this product ready by that date, and so on. So every little facility is basically managing itself, but being connected and networked with all kinds of other facilities. That's the way it works today. That's the way it's supposed to work in a resource-based economy. The only difference being, in a resource-based economy, money won't be used to... It's not even used to manage all of that today. That's the thing. Even today, it's being managed by this information, by those databases, by those lists, by those inventories and order lists and all of that. Just on top of that, today we use money. In a resource-based economy, the idea is not to use money anymore, but to have it all run basically in the same way as it runs today, with information. So there is not a central computer, there is not a central database, there are no, central machines. There is basically nothing central in a resource-based economy. Mr. Corbett seems to be imagining, or fearing, I would even say, that a resource-based economy should be run by some central computer who determines how many toothbrushes and anything else is going to be produced and shipped and transported and distributed to all kinds of places in the world. That's not the case. It simply isn't. That's not what we were talking about. We're talking about an intelligent system of production and distribution that is simply managed with pure information and without using money on top of the information as we do today. And the second thing I wanted to talk about is that Mr. Corbett seems to have some very strange ideas about what is going or what is supposed to happen to human nature or human beings in a resource-based economy. He seems to think that we're advocating that this new system changes human nature, or that human nature is going to change in the new system in a resource-based economy, and that is absolutely not what we're talking about. It doesn't even make any sense, because if there is such a thing as human nature, then the environment can't change it. Because if we talk about human nature, then that is human nature. And if we talk about behavior, sure, behavior can be changed by the environment. But what he said was that this new system, the resource-based economy, is supposed to change human nature, and that doesn't even make sense unless we talk about genetic manipulation or something which we are not even remotely talking about. So I don't know what he even meant, but just to clarify what we're actually talking about, we're talking about human behavior, and there is only so much of a human nature that we can say human beings have the potential to become or to be good or to become corrupted, basically. So this potential, you could say, is human nature. The system that we live in today also has a potential. It has the potential to corrupt human beings. So we have human beings that have the potential to be corrupted, living in a system that has the potential to corrupt them. We're not saying money or the monetary system is evil or is bad in itself. I mean, I'm sure if we were a race of completely logical Vulcans or robots or something living in a monetary system who couldn't be corrupted, none of whom could be corrupted by this monetary system, then I'm sure it could work pretty fine. But unfortunately, human beings can be corrupted and can be made to act selfishly and all of that when they live in a monetary system. So the monetary system itself is, like I said, not evil. It simply has the potential to corrupt human beings. And to repeat it again, human beings have the potential to be corrupted by a monetary system. So we have these two potentials, but we have to look at, okay, what about this situation can we change? And we cannot change the potential of human beings to be corrupted, because, like I said, then we would have to start genetic manipulation of human beings, and we definitely don't want to do that. We want to stay the human beings that we are. So the only option that we have is to change the system that we live in, the environment, to an environment that does not have the potential to corrupt human beings anymore. And such a system would be a resource-based economy, because in a resource-based economy there is no more potential to corrupt anyone, because for several reasons. Every human being living in such a system, in such a resource-based economy world, would have their basic needs fulfilled. So no one would live in scarcity, as almost everyone does today. That takes the pressure from people and takes away the constant need to compete, to win basically against everyone else, to gain an advantage every day over everyone else. So in a resource-based economy, that would be replaced by cooperation. People wouldn't have the need to compete anymore. No one would be able to gain anything from being better than anyone else. It wouldn't give you a monetary advantage, it wouldn't give you a material advantage, none of that. So there would be the system would have no potential to make human beings act in a competitive way. Also, a resource-based economy wouldn't have any potential to, like I said, to actually corrupt people, to make them act in a way in which they would love to overpower other people, in which they would love to become powerful, to rule other people, or to even commit crimes for their own benefit. A resource-based economy simply doesn't have the potential to make people act in that way, because they wouldn't gain anything from it. There's nothing to gain from acting that way in a resource-based economy, so why would anyone do it? Yes, and then we have this long main part of the video in which Mr. Corbett tells about all those failed systems of the past, which he then goes on to compare and liken to the resource-based economy, which the Zeitgeist movement talks about. And obviously what he's doing here is he's painting this big negative picture, this realistically negative picture of those past systems, and then he simply goes and says, and what the Zeitgeist movement talks about is also such a utopia, so it's also bad. And sorry, but this is a huge logical fallacy when he's saying those things are the same, because they simply are not the same by so many differences. Two of the biggest ones here are none of those past systems was a global, a holistic approach that took into account the carrying capacity of the earth, the needs and wants of all human beings, and the interconnectedness, the physical, causal interconnectedness of basically every process, every economic and every ecological process on the planet. None of these past systems took that into account. The resource-based economy approach does take that into account. The other big difference is none of those past systems was a bottom-up approach that was based on education of the people, on the idea that this is a voluntary system. Those past systems were, like Corbett says himself, they were dictated by some person, by some ruling elite. And that is definitely not the case here with the Zeitgeist movement. What our approach is education. We are trying to get people to understand these ideas, because no one must be dictated these ideas, because otherwise they can't work. That is what the past has proven, like Mr. Corbett described correctly. You cannot dictate such a system from the top down, because it has to be based on voluntary contribution by everyone to the system. We are trying to create a system without a ruler, so we can't put this system in place by a top-down rule. It's a contradiction in itself. So that is also a huge difference. There is no one, like I said before, there is no one here trying to dictate to the population that we start this new system. This is based on education. It's based on information about possibilities, about the flaws of today's system, and about a better system that would be possible. And this is completely voluntary. A resource-based economy is never going to happen unless it happens voluntarily, by basically everyone agreeing that we need to do this if we want to, on the one hand, survive on this planet, and on the other hand, make our lives a lot better than they are today. So those are just simply two such big differences between those failed systems of the past and the resource-based economy that we're talking about, that it's completely unlogical and unfair of Mr. Corbett to simply say, well, the resource-based economy is also a utopia, so it must also be bad, and everything, the whole negative picture that he drew before, he simply transfers to the resource-based economy by just saying it's also the same, which it simply isn't. And just to also address the title of his video, which I haven't even gone into yet, the last word on utopia, well, it's not a utopia we're talking about. No one's saying there won't be any problems anymore. I don't even know where he seems to be getting that. We're just saying, let's make things better. Let's make it all better than it works today, because obviously today we have some pretty big problems in the way we're doing things. Environmental problems, personal human stress and freedom problems, and economic problems at the moment, pretty big and pretty current. So and I don't think it's utopian to want to make things better than they are today. It's not like what we have today is normal and good, and everyone who wants to make something better is utopian. I think what we have today is pretty fucked up, actually, and to make things better and as good as we can make them is just rational and not utopian. So I think it's not even justified and fair to mention the Zeitgeist movement or the resource-based economy in a video that talks about utopia, because it's got nothing to do in there. We're not talking about utopia, and if Mr. Corbett thinks he has said the last word on utopia, then that's fine. It doesn't really concern the Zeitgeist movement. He can make a new video and say the last word on the resource-based economy if he wants to. Then I'll address that again, but well, I think that's most of what I wanted to say about this. Right, another little point, because he was talking about technocrats that will rule in this new system. I just wanted to quickly address this and say no. Technocracy, the word itself, means a rule by either by technology or by technologically skilled people. Both of that does not apply to a resource-based economy. I think that should be clear by now. A resource-based economy is neither ruled by machines nor ruled by scientists and technicians, because a resource-based economy is simply ruled by no one. There is no ruler, as I think I have explained about it 10 times now in this video. So it's not a technocracy, there are no technocrats, because the word technocracy means a system that is ruled by technicians or by technology, so the word simply also doesn't apply. So I hope I was able to clear up some or hopefully all of these points to Mr. Corbett or anyone else who watches this video. If you have any more questions, please direct them to me or to anyone else in the Zeitgeist movement. And other than that, I can only wish you a great day and peace.